What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. It's been a crazy few days as we start getting closer to the deadline for the vote for the next Liberal candidate, or shall we say the installation of Mark Carney. I know we talk a lot about Mark Carney, or how I say it, Mr. Burns, but we have to think about what's coming ahead for Canada, what his platform is, and essentially what this is going to mean for Canadians, because keep in mind that it has now been verified that we are not going to see an election anytime soon. At least the setup is there for that. I know a lot of people have been saying it for a long time. We're going to show you how that's verified a little later in the video. Make sure to stick around for that. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to get straight into what's happening today, or at least what we have to discuss today. Earlier, we talked about how Mark Carney is essentially tripping over his feet. He's a terrible speaker. He can't get his words right. The debates, whenever they happen, with Pierre Poilievre are definitely going to be interesting, because Poilievre definitely knows how to fight his ground or stand his ground in the arena with other people when it comes to debating. But what we're seeing here is a quick explanation to Mark Carney's devastating platform for the country of Canada. Again, I can't say enough good things about Ryan Garretson and his platform. Go check him out. If you're on X, this guy gets great stuff picked up. Again, he's a great source for all the videos we put through at the Fringe. So thank you to Ryan Garretson for your continued work efforts. For those who have been paying attention, Mark Carney is using Canada to implement the very plan he's been talking about for years while he was with the WEF and the United Nations. He wants to mandate all businesses to disclose their climate risk. He is so effing obsessed with this plan, it'll drive everyone out of our country. Wake the hell up, people. I'm going to show you proof of that, because this statement isn't the only one saying jobs are about to leave Canada. We've talked about it before, that Donald Trump essentially, if the tariffs go through, I mean, what's to stop him from contacting oil and gas companies to say, why don't you move your head offices down to the United States? You'll pay less taxes. You'll have more profits. Bring your manufacturing down here. Bring your automotive down here. Bring it all down here. The party's over here. This is what makes things scary moving forward. Here's Mark Carney's proposal. Move quickly to finalize and implement the Made in Canada Sustainable Investment Guidelines, also known as the Transition Taxonomy. He's already mentioned invest more, spend less. This is where this ties into, also known as the Transition Taxonomy. Nearly 2 years ago, representatives from Canada's financial institutions submitted a blueprint on how to mobilize capital for transition investments, yet no meaningful action has been taken. The absence of such guidelines is eroding Canadian competitiveness. They want to implement a taxonomy for every priority sector by fall 2026. Keep that date in mind. As a key early priority, we will kickstart the development of clear science-based criteria. Don't you love the word science being thrown into things again? Just like the pandemic, we are the science. They're going to use science-based criteria to identify those economic activities that are in transition. These guidelines will apply to activities in the electricity, transportation, buildings, agriculture, and forestry, manufacturing, and extractive sectors. Again, anywhere where it makes money, right? Mark Carney keeps saying, well, we're going to reduce the consumer carbon tax. This is where it's being talked about being implemented on businesses. This is why Mark Carney wants to know the footprint that every business is laying down. They want to mandate broad coverage of climate risk disclosure. Again, obsessed with the climate. For companies across Canada, this will increase transparency for investors to better assess climate risks and opportunities, help align capital towards a sustainable economy. We will prioritize working with provincial, territorial, and international partners to ensure disclosure requirements align with international best practice. Again, we saw this with Brexit. We're seeing it here. This is him essentially saying you need your social credit score within your company to be able to do business in Canada. If you don't meet those requirements, you're simply not going to get the business. So say goodbye to Canada's oil and gas sector, even though it's already crippled. This will be the final nail in the coffin. Again, you'll start to see many businesses leave the country because they're not going to play that game. Mark Carney has no idea what he's doing. Again, when we say keep in mind till fall 2026, keep that date in mind. I want to show Pierre Poilievre today, who sat in on a press conference, and he was asked about Mark Carney. I want to highlight this question because he says the same thing that we should all be worried about here. If Mark Carney has time, it's not even before an election. Once he's labeled as prime minister, if they go back to the House of Commons and Jagmeet Singh props them up, essentially this can be implemented. Listen to what Pierre has to say.
This question from Media.
Hey, this is Shubi from Y Media. Canadians are looking for a prime minister to show them leadership. So how is conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's plan and liberal leader different to the liberal leader candidate Mark Carney's plan? How's it different?
Oui, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. So here's the difference. Mark Carney, who has been Justin Trudeau's economic advisor for the last 5 years, would bring in tens of billions of dollars of new spending. He would bring in a massive post-election carbon tax on Canadian industry that will drive jobs to the south of the border. He would continue with the policies that have doubled housing costs, doubled food bank use over the last 9 years. Electing a fourth Liberal government in a row will not change what the previous 3 Liberal governments did. You need a new, common sense conservative government that will pass a massive bring-it-home tax cut that will to incentivize bringing back the $500 billion of investment Liberals drove to the United States so that Canadians can build factories, pipelines, mines, LNG plants, technology, and countless other assets that generate income for our people on this side of the border. We will go from having the worst economic growth in the G7 under Carney-Trudeau over the last 5 years to having the best economic growth in the G7. We will repeal the unconstitutional No New Pipelines Law, C-69, so that we can take back control of our energy and our resources. We can ship Canadian energy to Canadian workers, to Canadian businesses in this country we all call Canada. Liberals will drive jobs and investment away. Conservatives will put Canada first.
Now, we've already heard this. We've heard Kevin O'Leary on different news outlets saying that people don't want to invest in Canada. He's already seen it, that many investors have left Canada because, well, we have a weak dollar, we've got a weak economy, and we certainly don't make the best when it comes to business decisions. Now, Mark Carney essentially is going to continue to drive away that business. And again, he wants to implement this taxonomy for every priority sector by fall of 2026. And I know, Derek, why do you keep mentioning that date? Well, Karina Gould has been quoted now saying tariffs might be a reason not to go to the polls. You guys remember Mark Carney sitting and saying he's going to implement even emergency measures, every measure possible that the government has? People have been saying it forever. I know there's going to be people in the comments saying, I told you so. But here's the writing on the wall. They're already setting up for it. We've already said Crystia Freeland and Karina Gould are not essentially running campaigns. They're very quiet for two people who are running to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. They certainly haven't had many appearances, many debates. They haven't had really any involvement in the spotlight since they've announced their runnings. They had terrible launches of their campaigns. Crystia Freeland, of course, has appeared on CTV a few times, CBC. Nothing major, nothing trailblazing. They're all setting up for Mark Carney. So she says tariffs might be the reason not to go to the polls. This is why I keep saying they want this. It's their reason to use emergency measures to push off our election to fall of 2026. Funny how that aligns with this statement here, isn't it? Look at Mark Carney here. It says now Mark Carney refuses to answer if he'll call an election if he wins the Liberal leadership. It's not even a matter of if he wins. We know he's going to win it. Take a listen to this.
Will you call an election if you win? Will you call an election if you win the leadership? Mark, will you call an election if you win?
There's what he says. So he acknowledges the reporter at the end there. He hears her call out Mark. And then he says, let me know, give me your advice. He has no plans. No plans to call an election. What's funny when we talk about this spending, here it is, Trudeau in 2015, Justin Trudeau proposes modest deficits to double infrastructure spending. Now, of course, February 19th of 2025, federal leadership candidate Mark Carney plans small deficits for capital projects. I mean, we're just getting more of the same. And Pierre Poilievre says it as well, that he's been Justin Trudeau's head advisor for the last 5 years. How this is not a red flag for anybody in Canada who seems to be backing Mark Carney. And I know we've made lots of videos saying, look, these polls are bogus. Everything's bogus. I mean, there's 15 people at each one of Mark Carney's rallies. I get where people are going to say, Derek, you're flip-flopping. You say one point we don't have to worry, another point we do have to worry. What I'm talking about here potentially isn't the fact of how many people are voting for him in a federal election. What we have to worry about is what happens when Mark Carney is installed and essentially has many months, if not over a year, if they delay the election, to grind this country into the ground and try to convince woke snowflakes that Donald Trump is the enemy of the people, getting back those votes that Pierre has accumulated, or at least the interest in votes that Pierre has accumulated. Something has to be done. Something has to be done. I think that if Mark Carney delays the election to 2026, I think you're going to see an uprising. I'm certainly not condoning it as much as I would like to participate. I'm not going to condone it on the channel because that would be inciting violence. But what I will say is that I think the people have had enough. I think the people are fed up. The people cannot wait any longer for an election. We need an election yesterday. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you believe that we're not going to see an election until 2026? Do you think Mark Carney is going to completely decimate this country with a nuke between now and then? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Let me know if you're hitting that button, click your bell for notifications. Join me live here on the channel tonight and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our live streaming show, where I'm joined by my very beautiful wife, Mrs. Fringe, as we sit down and discuss everything that happened this week in politics, everything that we're aware of that's coming up ahead in the world of politics, as well as hearing what you have to say in this most amazing YouTube community on the entire platform. We look forward to hearing what you have to say outside of making these videos each and every Friday, but I look most forward to hearing what you have to say tonight in our live stream starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.